Today's recipe calls for butter. I'm going to show you how to take this and elevate it to the next level of deliciousness by turning it into brown butter. It sounds scary and complicated, but it's super easy and it makes such a great end product. So with that said, let's get started. The first thing we need to do before we start making some of the best stuff to ever exist is cube up 1 log of butter, which is 8 tablespoons or 113 grams of this stuff. Cubing up the fat will help speed up the process by allowing it to melt faster. Another great way to help speed up the cooking process is use room temperature weather butter as well. Next, grab your pan of choice. You can use a medium to large sized saucepan or use a small to medium sized saucepan. I think this is the best tool for the job. Of course, the size of the pan depends on how much brown butter you'll be making. Whatever contraption you decide to use, try using something that has a heavy bottom to it. You'll also want to use a pan that is light in color because this recipe requires some visual cues to know when things are done. Using a pan like this will help ensure things will not burn. If you do not have one, don't worry, just use what you have. After choosing your pan, toss the butter in. Snag the goods and take it over to the heat source. Toss it on the burner and crank the heat up to a medium to medium low level of hotness. The browning process should take 7 to 8 minutes or until it becomes golden brown in color with a really nice smell to it. The butter will crack and pop at the beginning. This is all the water being cooked off. You'll want to occasionally give the pot of fatty goodness a stir from time to time. While that's working, we can talk about the best butter to use. There are a few different types of butter out in the world. We'll keep it simple and talk about unsalted versus salted butter for this recipe. Brown butter is the perfect addition to sweet and savory dishes. The best butter to use for making brown butter is the unsalted stuff. The reason being is we'll be cooking off all the water the butter holds. This means we'll be changing the volume of the butter, which means the salt in the butter will be distributed throughout less product, making the salt more concentrated in flavor, giving the salted brown butter a really salty taste. We want to control our flavor/salt levels, especially when it comes to baked goods/desserts. So long story short, always use the unsalted butter to make brown butter. If all you have is salted butter, you may be able to get away with it by not using any extra salt that a recipe calls for. Some savory dishes you could use salted brown butter for are buttered noodles, or spread it on some toasted bread, or pour it over some popcorn. I used salted butter for this video because that's all I had on hand, and oh man, it was pretty salty. Alright, that's enough nerd talk. At this point, all of your solid butter should have changed into liquid form. You'll notice an even layer of white foam has risen to the top. You didn't break anything, so don't panic. This is all the milk solids that are in the butter coming to the top. At this point, you don't want to leave the butter unattended because things are close to being done. You'll also want to stir the pot of goods more often at this time as well. The even layer of milk solids will start to break up and become chunky looking. This is a good indication we're close to hitting the next step in the process. Your butter should start to become a nice golden brown color as well. The next stage of our brown butter is the milk solids will seem to disappear. They haven't actually disappeared. They have sunken to the bottom of the pot. The top will become bubbly and foamy. We are really close after hitting this point. About a minute or two left before it's done. So now is not the time to become distracted. Keep stirring the liquid fat to prevent the milk solids on the bottom of the pot from burning. One last layer of foam will form at the top of the pot. This time it should be a golden color instead of being white. Our brown butter is basically done at this point, but the best way to know when you've achieved perfection is by using 2 of the 5 senses that most people came stock with from the factory. The first one is using some visual cues. Your butter should have a nice, deep, rich golden brown color to it. You should also see a ton of little brown speckles on the bottom of the pot. You'll have to part the foam sea to find them. These are all the milk solids. This is why you want to use a light colored or stainless steel pan so you can play real life I Spy. If you use a pan with a dark bottom, you wouldn't be able to see the toasted milk solids. The other sense we'll be using is smell. Things should be very fragrant in smell. It'll have a deep, rich, buttery scent to it. It'll also have a nutty smell to it as well. Brown butter and the smell of yeast when making bread are my 2 favorite smells. Oh, also fresh cut grass, but this isn't a mowing channel. Anyways, when you hit all those cues, you know for sure your brown butter is done. You may keep cooking it longer for a deeper and richer flavor if you wish. Just understand, things at this point will burn very easily and quickly, so don't be sleeping on the job. If you like where it is, immediately pull it off the heat. Transfer the deliciousness over to a heat-proof bowl. Scrape the cooking device clean with a rubber spatula. There may be some golden specks stuck to the bottom of the pot. We want all of those. We work kinda hard for this goodness, so we don't want to waste any of it. In the end, this is what your brown butter should look like. It should be a golden brown color with a ton of little nuggets of toasted milk solids on the bottom of your bowl. Allow your butter to completely cool down to room temperature, then toss it in the fridge box to re-solidify. This is some brown butter that is back to its solid state. You can see all the little flavor nuggies on the bottom of the butter. If using the brown butter that looks like this, I recommend mixing the butter on its own to break it up. This will help distribute the toasted milk solids throughout the butter, ensuring your baked goods will have an even flavor profile of brown butter throughout. Or you can skip all that business and let your butter slowly re-solidify at room temp, while occasionally stirring it to mix the toasted nuggies throughout the butter, preventing the milk solids from sinking to the bottom as it hardens over time. This way, your solid butter will be speckled with deliciousness instead of it all being on the bottom. Use this stuff to basically make anything. Make yourself some buttered noodles or any of the dessert recipes on my channel, like the hot cocoa cookies or the brown butter blondies. Whatever you decide to do, just enjoy.
Alright, now that our brown butter is done, let's give it the old taste-a-roo. So looking at it, it came out super aesthetically pleasing. The butter itself became a nice golden brown color. Then there's all those little teeny tiny nuggets of deliciousness on the bottom. And it smells super nutty and really tasty. And it just looks really good. So let's try a very small amount. Because, you know, it's just that. So, yeah. This stuff came out super bomb. Brown butter is like the best thing ever created, in my humble opinion. It takes regular old butter and makes it 10,000 times better because it has such a deep, rich, nutty, and toasted flavor. It really elevates the flavor of the butter, and it makes everything that much better. So I highly recommend that you become a pro at making this stuff because you won't want to go back to using like regular butter. You want brown butter. This was a super easy one today, but use this brown butter to elevate your baked goods or make a brown butter hollandaise, which is super tasty. Trust me, I used to make it every day at work. Or really flex on some people and sound like a true pro in the kitchen and say, oh yeah, that has brown butter in it, and then flex real hard because it sounds cool. So hopefully you enjoyed today's video. Thanks for watching. I have a ton of brown butter that I need to figure out what to do with. I may make some butter noodles because that sounds really tasty. So yeah, we'll see you on the next one. I really hope I get this in like 1 or 2 takes because I definitely don't want to eat spoonfuls of butter all day today because that's pretty gross. So wish me luck. Super nutty and delicious. You already said delicious. It's gonna be a long day. Bang, bang, bang. Too loud. Regular butter to a next. You won't want to go back to the old regular stuff. Regular stuff. Having a stroke. You definitely have to be a pro or become a pro at making it because you won't want to go. You'll always just, yeah.